Hey, and good Wednesday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Craig Majeski back with you here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel with the weather report. As we're going to give you an update here on your November the 5th, 2025. Hope you guys are having a great day. We've got some things we got to talk about. We got a pretty big storm system out on the West Coast causing some headaches out there with a lot of heavy rains out on the West Coast. We've got some rains and a little bit of snows come across the Northeast. A lot of the country fairly quiet, but the big weather story really is going to be this brief, I will call it brief hit and run, pretty decent cold snap coming in for next week. That's going to give many areas that have not seen freezing temperatures their first freeze of the season, and a large portion of the country is going to see this, especially the eastern half of the United States. Now, before we get into this full report, if you happen to come across this during the live broadcast, if you come in after the fact, let me introduce myself. I'm meteorologist Craig Majeski, old-time weather guy here, and just like to give it to you straight here on this broadcast. We are not one of those no-nonsense channels that hypes every storm as the storm of the century and try to scare the bejesus out of you. We try to give you the weather facts, keep you prepared and not scared. That's our motto, and that's what you appreciate. If that's what you want to hear, then please consider subscribing to the channel. I do appreciate you helping us out. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what we got going on here. Let's talk about our highs and lows yesterday. Our two locations there. I took a snapshot. Let me get it up on my phone. My apologies on that. I should have had that up already, but what are you going to do? So anyway, we're looking at Tecopula. That's out there in Southern California. 95 out there yesterday. And Angel Fire, New Mexico got down to 12 there in northern New Mexico. So those were highs and lows across the country as we're looking at the sun coming up there in the east and looking pretty decent across the southeast, looking very nice. So a little bit of a chill in the air down here. Got high pressure and control down here. Here's our next weather system coming in across the northeast, bringing some rains across the Great Lakes and going to be coming into the northeast. A little snow with that as well. And very active weather here on the west coast from Washington State all the way into Northern California. Some heavy rains, and there'll be some isolated flooding potential out there as well. And we're going to wait for a bit of a pattern change coming at us as we go into this upcoming weekend. Going to Sunday, Monday, we're going to have a real nice big drop-off in temperatures here coming our way. Now, we are with a couple of those systems. They are pretty breezy. We've got some windy conditions here across the northeast. It is, of course, fall. Very typical to see this. But that's definitely going to be blowing the leaves all over the place across New England states and into Pennsylvania, New Jersey, even out here in the west as well, California. Even some high wind advisories out there in that little darker brown color there. And even up here across Montana. A little bit of winter weather advisories up here across Washington State. But very windy with both these two systems that are moving on in for right now. I do want to show you a radar real quick. Let me get that up for you real quick. I forgot to move the radar, so I'm going to move this out to California because it is some really good rains out here falling out down here, even getting down toward the San Francisco area. So I wanted to show you this radar. It's pretty impressive, not bad for this time of year. Here goes the radar out here. As you can see, the heavy rains coming in just north of San Francisco, coming up towards Santa Rosa, Maryville, Sacramento, getting in on the heavy rains as well. And I tell you, what's interesting is over the next 10 days, we're going to spread rain not only from the northwest, but all the way down into Southern California. Even Los Angeles is going to get in on this. So getting an early jump on the wet season out there in Southern Cal. Now, quick look out in the tropics. We're there's a couple of waves out here in the middle of the Atlantic, but right now none of these are showing any potential signs for development. And right now, over the next 7 days, it is all quiet out in the Atlantic, and hopefully it stays that way for the remainder of the 25 more days left of the hurricane season. Now, as far as the West Coast is concerned, remember we were talking about the fact that that area is going to be seeing some heavy rains, and we do have a couple little pockets out there. We got a little pocket up there across the areas of the Pacific Northwest, kind of getting up there, and also down towards Northern California. So this is basically right up in here, and again up here and toward the Northwest. That's your day one outlook. Day two, still kind of holding in the same zones. In day three, it finally dries off a little bit there. Rest of the country looking pretty quiet here. So it's just the West Coast, a couple of little hot pockets we have to watch there for some heavy rains. Now, we can show this very well. We look at the 6 kilometer NAM, latest intermediate model here as we take a look at this. You guys, again, two systems we're watching here, going through Friday. We're talking about areas there toward the northeast, and we're talking about areas there into the West Coast. So obviously, we got the drop down coming around here. See the low kind of spinning on right there. You have the little snow wind thrown in there as well. A little cold shot coming up there. And then you got the next system coming on behind that one. So they got a pretty progressive flow here across the country. So here's that first one coming across. That's going in here right now. And then we got another one that'll come in behind it, and then another one behind it. So we got 3 different systems that we're tracking across the northern tier. Southern tier looking pretty quiet. Not to worry about that. Looking pretty quiet down there over the next few days. So these are going to be jumping some heavy rains out on the west coast and some decent rains across New England. It's kind of a cloudy, gray day up there as that goes on through going into your Thursday morning. And then we got the next one coming in behind this one. This one up here, that will start tapping some cold air and bringing it down here across portions of the Dakotas as well. All right, so let's look at the rain totals again. Not that impressive across New England. I mean, maybe ½ inch, not really a lot there across most of the country. Boy, this stuff out here on the West Coast, man, we're talking about some serious rains out here, man. We're talking 7 inches here showing up. A lot of that red you're seeing in there, that's 4 inches plus in here. And when you see the darker colors, 9 inches there in southern Oregon. Go down to Northern California, again, you're seeing a lot of heavier rains up in here, 4 inches plus. And even some rain starting to show up down here towards Southern California here. As we go through Friday. So again, that's just the start because there's a lot more coming out there on the West Coast. So a big part of the country though looking fairly dry. And when I show you the climate outlook, you're going to see that too. That'll be reflected there in the short term here. Now, as far as the temperature is concerned, the short term doesn't really show what's coming. All right, so that's going to be into early next week. What we're seeing right now is I would call seasonably cool, a little bit chilly. We start seeing that some fringes of this cold air on the end of this run. Coming up toward the Dakotas, but really not seeing anything as far as a big push of cold air just yet. That will be coming in early next week. All right, so here's what's going to be driving that train as I got the 500 millibar European anomaly map going here. Again, quiet this week. Again, you got this orange down here. That's pretty mild, looking pretty decent here for this week, but we're going to be tapping some cold air. We got this trough that's going to be digging here across the east, and boy, this thing means business. It's going to drop right out of Hudson Bay and drop right down into the south. I mean, this thing's going to really cool things off. We're talking about, give you an example here, on Monday down in my neck of the woods in Georgia. We probably won't see wind chills stay in the 20s all day. A lot of the Midwest, the Ohio River Valley, the wind chills in the teens all day. I mean, we're talking this brutal weather. There's going to be some lake effect snows. There'll be some snows probably up in the Smokies as well as this thing moves on up. But this is a quick hit and run. Okay, it's not going to be sticking around long. It's going to be a quick hit and run. Couple days, like Monday through Wednesday next week, pretty cold across the east, and then it kind of moves on out. And then we'll see a warm up there as we head toward the following weekend, going toward the 15th. You can kind of see that there because the jet stream's kind of doing this number here. And then we got this cutoff feature here to kind of watch. That cutoff feature, by the way, depending on what that thing does, that could be a potential severe weather thing. I've talked about that yesterday, and it's still kind of showing there. Kind of just depends on how warm it is across Texas. You just have to watch those little upper level features like that when they come rolling in out of the west like that. And then it looks like we get another pinch off low across Southern California. Look at that one. Another one buries itself down there. And there's the jet stream staying pretty active there. So it looks like we get a little more progressive with the weather pattern here as we go deeper into the month of November. But we got to watch these pinch off features because they can be a little bit tricky to track. And that causes fluctuations in the model continuity from day to day. All right, so here's the big story. Let's back this up here. I want to show, again, this big cold dump coming at us. We got the weather for the next couple of days, West Coast and Northeast. We talked about that. But what we're talking about here is this big dump in the jet stream, and this thing means business. I mean, this is some very cold air here coming down. This is a freezing line going way down here. We're talking about some serious cold lake effect snows in here. We'll probably get some upslope snows into the Appalachian Mountains as well, going into some Sunday and Monday. This thing really does it. This is a 510. 510. That is like January cold. That is definitely January cold here. A little cold core going right over Kentucky and Nashville right there. So very, very cold temperatures. We're going to get 20s well into the deep south and even some teens. And then look at the snows there on your Monday afternoon there across the Appalachians. Again, when you get this kind of cold air mass, it really acts like a sponge, kind of squeezes it out, gets all the moisture out, whatever's left out of it. I mean, a 1039 high this time of year that's pretty impressive. That's very impressive. That's a very cold high. But again, this is a hit and run. It's going to move on out. It quickly moves on out, very fast. So by the time we get to Wednesday, things are warming up nicely across the country, and we'll see a big warm up there. And then the West Coast. See that next energy going into next week? That comes in on the West Coast, bringing some heavy rains out there towards Southern California. All right, so that'll be going. That's our next system out there. But get ready for this brutal cold, folks. If you haven't winterized your car, got your heating system, especially in the east, and it's been some chilly days, but not brutal cold. That's what we got coming at us here for next week. Rainfall totals, again, West Coast, all the way down to Southern California. Look at all this heavy rain, all the way down to the Mexican border. I mean, it's a pretty good rains there. San Diego, Los Angeles, go up to Sacramento, all the way up to Seattle, all the west coast there. Here across the Great Lakes in the northeast. Middle of the country still looking pretty dry. Limited rain chances across the southeast. Again, this is your 10-day total here. 10 days out to the 14th. All right, we're going to have some snow with this. Higher elevation Sierra Nevada snows there and the Cascades. And check out the lake effect here. Coming on in here a little bit and down to the mountains. Now, I don't believe we're going to get accumulating snows this far south. It's showing it down even to metro Atlanta, like a dusting and that kind of thing. I don't see it. It's been too warm here anyway. But up into the Smokies, I see that up to West Virginia, Ohio, coming across areas of Michigan and stuff. So you're seeing like 7 inches here. Again, the little lake effect will probably kick in here a little bit. And if the lake effect does kick in, as warm as those waters are, it may be underrepresenting the snow totals a bit. That usually happens, especially when we're just kind of getting started into the lake effect season. All right, so the other part of the story here on Monday, by the way, is going to, as I mentioned, is going to be the wind chills. Look at these winds. I mean, we got winds here, 45, 38, 49, 31. There's going to be numerous wind advisories here across the eastern third of the United States. That means those wind chills are going to be pretty brutal with the cold. Definitely feeling like a January day here across the east with some very frigid temperatures there. I can kind of illustrate this a little bit better for you here. Let me go over to this this model run here as I kind of illustrate this front kind of coming on down. I mean, this is the apparent feel-like temperatures here. I'll take it right into your going into Monday morning. So we're talking feel-like temperatures here. Northern Illinois in the low teens, 12, 13. Looking at teens down here in the Appalachian, 20s here across North Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, 20s. I mean, these are your feel-like temperatures, and they're going to stay there all day. They're not going anywhere. It's going to just stay cold all day here. Even look at 25, 27, middle of the afternoon here on your Monday afternoon, and it's still holding in the teens and 20s here across the southeast. Just very brutal. Ohio River Valley in the teens, 20s. Again, it's just a very cold, frigid day. Get those heavy coats ready. It's coming, all right? But like I said, this is a quick hit and run. It's a teaser. Let's call it a teaser because that's exactly what it is. It's a bit of a teaser there. And because check out what the temperatures do here on the back side of this. Let me show you this. Again, this is the snapshot here. Let me go back to this run here. Look how much of the country here on Monday morning. All that blue is below 32 degrees. So we're talking about, what, 40% of the country here looking at below normal, below 32-degree temperatures here. And then this will shift off to the east here going into your Tuesday morning. Here's your Tuesday morning. Again, the Ohio River Valley here across the northeast, the southeast, deep south, getting all the way down to South Alabama, South Georgia here. We're talking freezing temperatures here. First freeze of the season coming in. But it's going to warm up quickly, folks. This really moves on out. Tuesday morning, not nearly as bad. Wednesday morning, not nearly as bad. And then going into Thursday morning, just kind of the high plains there into Thursday. And then we start really warming things up back across the south once again. By the time we get to Friday afternoon, here we're warm back in the 60s once again. Still kind of cool across the northeast, but again, we're going to say goodbye to that cold as it moves on through. So climate outlook, as you expect, is going to be looking pretty cold here. Again, look, the eastern third of the United States, that's where the most cold is going to be. Mild above normal out in the west. That's going to hold true because look what happens as we go from the 10th to the 14th right through the 12th to the 18th. We warm up. That does go below normal on the west coast. Remember, we got all that rain coming on in there. That's going to knock those temperatures down there on the west coast there for California as we go from the 12th to the 18th. Precipitation-wise, boy, it's brutally dry here across the east, at least from the 10th to the 14th. So basically next week, very dry here across the east, very wet out here in the west for next week. And then, as we saw with the jet stream, gets a little more progressive. Looks like we start increasing the rain chances to come into the east, except for just the extreme east coast. And we start seeing things begin to change just a little bit there. So anyway, there's your update, guys. Again, just get ready for this quick hit and run visit from Old Man Winter coming in for next week. Definitely going to feel a lot like January for a big portion of the country. Get that firewood ready. Those who are not gotten past peak on their leaf watching, you may want to do it this weekend because with all these high winds coming in across the eastern third, there are going to be leaves blowing everywhere. They're going to knock a lot of leaves off the trees. So a big chill is on the way. And then looks like after that, not looking too bad, but we are going to have to watch that system in the south central as we head toward the 16th, 17th. Again, we're in secondary severe weather season mode. So down toward Texas, it's going to watch that a little bit as we go deeper into the month. All right, who we got out there this morning? We got Rita, Mick, good morning there. Edith, good to see you there. Who else we got? Patrick's, Wilt, good to see you there. Ryan, good to see you. Good morning, guys. Appreciate you guys checking out your update here for this morning. Again, if you guys have a weather-related question, as always, you know what to do. Just kind of post it down below. And I appreciate you guys checking us out. All right, you guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll give you the latest. Like I say, every run, every time it comes in, that European model looks colder and more brutal than it did the day before. Every last 3 runs has just gotten worse and worse. So anyway, I'm ready for the cold weather down here. I just got to get my heavier coat out and get it ready for it. Anyway, you guys take it easy. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.